Wrath of the Lich King Classic. Sup, y'all? It's me. It's your boy, Asmongold. And today, we got a number of things to talk about. And I'm going to go ahead and look at, I guess, like 2 or 3 different things today. The first thing that I really want to go over, first thing I want to talk about is obviously, I didn't really get a whole lot of time to talk about this a few days ago whenever the news really came out. But I guess I should talk about it now. Wrath of the Lich King Classic. Now, this has been on the lips of many people. There's been a lot of people talking about the idea of this, and ever since the introduction of classic servers, who wasn't thinking about Wrath of the Lich King Classic? Would it ever be a possibility? Well, it turns out that it probably will be. And I wanted to talk about that, and I wanted to get into that, because obviously I think there's a lot of people who do not really remember. They do not really remember how Wrath of the Lich King really was, and I think that it would be nice to have a little bit of a reality check about how the game used to really fucking be, man. That's it. Classic WoW Wrath of the Lich King confirmed. Yeah, I know. Shadowlands Classic win. Listen, I've said this before about Shadowlands, is that Shadowlands is not a bad game. The problem with Shadowlands is the fact that it has bad content and bad systems. Like, it has no content and bad systems. Like, the gameplay fundamentally isn't really that bad. Like, I don't know about you guys. Like, here, correct me if I'm wrong about this. I feel like playing Shadowlands and doing the raids in Shadowlands and playing your class is not that bad. I do. I really don't think it's that bad at all. So yeah, I think it's, again, the reason why people fucking hate Shadowlands is the fact that we're getting 9.2 right now and not 9.3. The fact is that I think that Shadowlands is not really that bad in terms of its actual core gameplay. It's bad in terms of some of the grinding systems and just some of the overall WoW problems that it's had for just fucking years. There's just no content. Yeah, it's like a WoD situation. Playing your class in WoD probably wasn't that bad, but you had nothing to do with it. You couldn't fucking do anything with your class. So yeah, what gameplay is only time gate systems? I mean, like, just playing your class. I think that's probably the best way for me to say. Now, the Lost Ark grinding systems, people compare this all the time, because anytime I think that I roast WoW, people always say, but what about Lost Ark? And the fact is, good point. I know. Lost Ark has a lot of the same problems, but the reason why people are more okay with it is because those systems don't go away every expansion. And we talked about that multiple times, so we're not going to get into that too much right here. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and look at a few of these. They're playing Prot Warrior with full armor pin and Wrath. Well, I'm going to tell you guys what I think is going to happen in Wrath of the Lich King Classic, okay? Because this is going to be a, little bit of a, I think this might upset some people. I think Wrath of the Lich King Classic is going to have less retention than Burning Crusade. That's what I think is going to happen. I know that might sound upsetting. I know that might sound disagreeable. I know that might sound not good. But the fact is that I believe that Wrath of the Lich King Classic is not going to retain a massive amount of people. I feel like Wrath of the Lich King Classic is not going to bring in a huge amount of people. I think that for Burning Crusade and for Wrath, like, Classic WoW was like the first one that you ever went into, and it was like, okay, wow, this is the old world, etc. Burning Crusade is for the WoW Classic enthusiast, and Wrath of the Lich King, I feel like, did not really age very well. I don't fucking think so. And, like, I mean, am I the only person who believes that? Classes are far better? Yeah, I just don't think that it was gonna, I think people don't remember what Wrath of the Lich King really was. The first tier of Wrath of the Lich King, every single raid boss was easy even then.
Impossible.
Like, you guys have no idea how fucking easy Nax 80 is. People cleared the raids in Wrath of the Lich King within 3 days of the game coming out. It's just fucking, it is so fucking easy. And then obviously all the other raids are going to be a little bit harder. I mean, Ulduar is harder, TOGC is harder, ICC is, I think, not really that hard, but it's numerically hard. Like, there's big numbers, they do a lot of damage, etc. So, like, in general, I feel like a lot of the content in Wrath is going to get cleared by an average player in, like, probably in less than 2 or 3 weeks. They're going to level up to 80, and then that's going to be basically it, man. TOC was such dog shit. Yeah, I think that people remember ICC, and people remember Ulduar, and they think to themselves, wow, Wrath of the Lich King was great. And yes, that's true. Those parts of the game were pretty good, but you have to remember that was only half of the expansion. The other half of the expansion that came out was fucking garbage. Like, sitting in TOC the entire time was so boring. Like, there was no, like, real different areas that you would go to. There was nothing else like that. It was just super, super boring. And I think that's what's going to happen with Wrath Classic, is that Wrath Classic isn't going to be able to retain people on that same level. But we're going to have to see. I don't think ICC was that good. I think half of the reason why people liked ICC is the fact that it had really big damage buffs, and they got to go in there and have way more health and do way more damage. I actually don't think the raid was that good. I think the only good raid that really came out of Wrath of the Lich King was Ulduar, and then to a lesser extent the Obsidian Sanctum with Sartharian. I thought that was really cool. But that was about it, man. And the PvP was the best there ever was. See, everybody says the PvP was the best there ever was. And you know what? I don't necessarily think that might be true. I think the fact is that I remember back in Season 8. Season 8 was great because everybody could one-shot everybody. But I feel like what's going to happen is that the game is going to get fucking min-maxed. It's going to get meta-gamed so fucking hard that the experience that an average person is going to have is just going to be so completely fucking different versus what they had back in 2010, man. And I do want to say this, okay? I am looking forward. Absolutely. I am looking forward to Wrath of the Lich King Classic. I want to play it, but I'm just saying that I don't think it's going to change the world, and I don't think it's going to have even as much longevity as Burning Crusade does. And I know that, I don't know, do you guys agree with me on this or what? RBGs came out in Cataclysm, so we're not going to get it. And in my opinion, if they made RBGs in Wrath of the Lich King, I would think that's great. I think that's a totally fucking good thing. Yeah, we'll see. I feel like a lot of people think that Wrath is going to be the biggest one. It's going to be the best one because that's whenever WoW had the most subscribers. But WoW is also where the subscribers in WoW plateaued. So I think that's also worthy of consideration into this little hypothesis here. Is that, yes, obviously WoW was very big then, but it also stopped being big then, or it stopped growing then. Have you seen the PoE Kirak Vault Pass? No, I haven't seen that at all. I have no idea what that is. And I don't see why TBC would have more staying power and Wrath of the Lich King classes more complete and alts are easier. I think that the reason why is that a lot of the raids and like most people that are playing Burning Crusade are serious players. Like I think like if you take the amount of people that are playing Burning Crusade versus the amount of people that are playing Shadowlands, a larger percentage of people in Burning Crusade play the game to raid. Because they're actually going back. Many of them know what they're talking about. They know what's going on, right? This is for people that are already enthusiasts of the game. In many regards, that's what I believe. And it's the same thing with Arena, too. Most of the people who are on the Arena ladder are people that have been on the Arena ladder for a long time. And I think that most people that probably are playing Burning Crusade Arena are people that might have even played it back whenever it came out, and probably people that came from Shadowlands. That's what I'm assuming. Not every single one, but I think there's a lot of them. And anyway, because of that, I don't think you're going to see as many people that are, you know, going to be appealed. You're going to appeal to those people with casual systems. I just don't really think so, because a casual player, I feel like a lot of casual players will not want to go back and play Wrath of the Lich King because they already have Shadowlands. Like, to be honest, in a lot of ways, Classic WoW was great for casual players, but there are a lot of people out there who don't want to level. That's just the truth. They don't want to fucking level. And in Shadowlands, they can do whatever the fuck they want, and there is some friction, but those are just shitty game systems, man. And that's all it comes down to. What about the popularity of servers like Warmane? I mean, I'm sure that, like, and this is what I'm saying, right? It's the same thing with Season of Mastery. I think, like, for example, with Season of Mastery has, like, 2 or 3 pretty well-populated realms. And Warmane is one, arguably, I think they fudge their numbers so they can have a higher value add of the transactions and items they sell in their store. I think they do that. I think they're lying about their numbers because it's financially beneficial to do so. But anyway, let's assume that they're not lying on their numbers. And let's assume that all of these people are legitimate. Well, then I would say, yeah, they'll probably have the same, you know, have the same thing. There'll be a couple of big Wrath of the Lich King servers for sure. That's what I would say, man. What's the story of your green hoodie? So I do have a story for this hoodie. It's a pretty crazy story, and I guess I should just tell it right now, huh? Well, one day I went to the thrift store, and this hoodie was $1, and I bought the hoodie. That's it. That's the story. Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy, and so like, yeah, I bought the hoodie for $1, and I think it's a woman's hoodie actually, because it has the zipper on the other side. I've never had one that's like that. It also is falling apart kind of, but I went outside and I looked at the bird bath, and the bird bath was actually a bird ice skating rink. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna go to the store, and I'm gonna get myself a drink, but I'm gonna wear a hoodie. And so this is just the first one that was downstairs. I figured I would just wear that one, man. Won't judge wearing a woman's clothes. Bro, I don't give a fuck, man. Like, it's a nice looking hoodie. It's good. It doesn't matter to me one way or another, man. Better storytelling than Lost Ark. Look, bro, I don't think the story in Lost Ark is that bad. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Now, I'll also say I don't think it's the best thing in the world. So I think that Lost Ark, again, it falls into The Room, Rocky Horror Picture Show, like those kinds of movies, They Live, that are just so bad, they become good. It's like the stories are just so stupid, and they don't make so much sense that it's just better to have it like that. Stop bullshitting, the story's terrible. It's good because it's bad. That's what I'm saying. It's like some guy will like say, remember the guy that they carried off, they like escorted him off the premises, and he's like this.
It's locked.
And they never like faded away the audio or anything like that. They didn't even try. Like, that shit was so fucking funny to me. And like, yes, obviously it's because it's fucking garbage, but that's funny. It's funny to me. As I said, those are the kinds of movies that I think, also it's just generic anime plot. Yeah. And I think that's totally fucking fine, okay? I'm not looking for them to reinvent the wheel. I'm not looking for, you know, a Final Fantasy level of storytelling. I'm just looking for a good story that I can laugh along or follow along with chat, you know? That's what I really enjoy the most. You knowing all boring garbage, Final Fantasy MSQ? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Is that Final Fantasy, some people, here's the truth, right? Is that there's a lot of people who just simply don't give a fuck about stories in video games. They don't care. They think to themselves, if I want to watch a story or want to read a story that's good, I'll watch a movie or I'll read a book. And every time there's a cinematic, they're mad. Every single time they have to look through dialogue, they're mad. They're like, please take me to the monster and let me kill the fucking monster. That's the only thing they give a shit about, and everything else doesn't matter at all, okay? If you're playing Lost Ark for the story, then holy shit, what the fuck are you doing? I think the story isn't really, it's not the worst thing ever. Like, there are cool little arcs in the story, if that makes sense, but I mean, overall, yeah, it's just, the story, it is a story. And I said this in my video, right? It is a story. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. There are characters in the story. The characters have dialogue with each other. And there are points of interest. There it is. I think that's the Lost Ark story right there. That's just about fucking it, man. And what's the point of killing a monster if you don't know why you're killing it in the first place? Well, what do you mean, what's the point of killing a monster? What the fuck are you talking about? If you see a cockroach in your goddamn house, you just get it. You don't have to go pick up a quest and like, oh, hey, where did this cockroach come from? What world did this come from? How can I stop this cockroach from fucking, like, what do you mean? You don't need a story. It's a fucking cockroach. If you're walking around in the city and there's a demon there, you don't need a story for why you need to kill him. You don't need a fucking backlog. You don't need a cutscene. He's right there. Get him. Right there. It's that fucking easy, man. Yeah, it's so fucking simple. Okay? You see what I'm saying, guys? You picking up what I'm putting down? Cockroaches and undead's non-combat pet. Yeah, I know, I've got plenty of them. So let's look over here, and I'll look at a few things on Reddit, look at some videos, and I want to get into some gameplay and actually get into some other stuff, man. How can you compare a story of Final Fantasy or WoW that has a backstory of 10 years, Lost Ark? So how do I compare Lost Ark to Final Fantasy or WoW? It's very fucking simple. I'm comparing Lost Ark's story to how I felt about the Final Fantasy story at the same point in Realm Reborn. I haven't done all of the Final Fantasy story. So, like, for me, I've gone through like, let's say, like, almost over a week after I've been into the story for Lost Ark. What are my feelings on it even now? And that's what I would say my feelings are, is that I think the game is, it's, you know, it's not amazing, it's not great, but that's whatever. And that's the only thing I really give a shit about. Like, yeah, I'm just comparing it to where I was in the Final Fantasy story at an equivalent time playing the game. I think that's very fair. That's a very, very fair thing to say. All right, let's go back over. We're going to read a few of these posts here. Check Lost Ark player numbers. Sure. Yeah. All right, here we go. You guys want to see it? Wow. Wow. People still playing. People still popping off. That is insane. Under 1 million dead game? Well, it's in the morning, right? So, like, obviously it would be lower in the morning. That's usually just the way these things kind of go. And, yeah, I think this is amazing. It's a huge, big success for Lost Ark. As I said, these numbers, like, obviously I think that it's going to stabilize. Like, what number do I think this game is going to go to? I think it's going to stabilize around 700 to 600 to 700,000 people. Because, like, right now, like, you still are, like, you're still riding off of the high of the release. There's, like, a big thing for Lost Ark, and this is, like, I talked about this a little bit on Allcraft yesterday, but a big reason why Lost Ark is doing so well is because there are a lot of people that are playing the game that are at max level, and then in the process of being at max level, they have things to do. And that's really where New World dropped the ball, is because most people in Lost Ark, if they are serious players, they're already level 50 by now. Like, if you play the game 5 hours a day, 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day probably, you are probably level 50 by now. Probably level 40 by now. Actually, no, guaranteed you're level 50 by now. And the reason why Lost Ark is going to do better than New World in this regard is because there is end-game activities for you to do and progress through. And this is a huge problem that World of Warcraft has. This is a huge problem that New World has, is that once you get to endgame, there's either too many little chores and bullshit things to do like in Shadowlands, or like in New World, there's nothing to fucking do. So as soon as you hit the max level, it's like, congratulations, now let's play a new game. And that's the worst feeling to have whenever you're playing an MMO. And that's the worst thing I would say, man. Is what's this here? Thanks Soda for single-handedly funding the game. Yeah, I've seen that as well. Too busy doing completionist shit, level 44? Well, that's great, right? Because the completionist shit is going to help you in the long run. But all I'm really saying is that Lost Ark, I think, will retain a lot more players than a lot of the people might imagine. And the reason why I think it's going to retain a lot more players is because it has those cascading in-game systems that cause people to continuously play it. That's the big reason. Do you guys see kind of what I'm saying? Because there's so many things to do at the end game, people will still have those loops to go through, and they're not going to immediately hit level 50, do 3 chaos dungeons, get the best gear in the game, and then quit. Because there's all of the Abyss dungeons, there's all of these, like, apparently there's like a cube dungeon thing. Like, I'm gonna try and do that today. I don't know how it works, but I might as well try it out. There's a number of these other things that you can do as well.
I need a key. can't. Impossible. I can't carry anymore. I can't. I can't carry anymore. I can't. Impossible. can't. I can't. Impossible. Impossible. I can't.
It's like, yes, obviously, it will always boil down to, ultimately, player preference and personal choice. You are right. However, there are a lot of things that are just fucking garbage. Preach comparing WoW in-game grind to those with Final Fantasy XIV.
What happens when you make a catch-up zone for an MMO and you do not care whether people need to be online in 5 weeks' time grinding their ass off? Doesn't that sound cool?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, I found it. Let's take a look.
That's the good shit right there. Okay.
Completely optional. An entire fully fleshed out story.
It's like, yes, obviously,
immediate, useful power gains for the player. Completely optional. A fast track to level alts. A spectator single player mode that passively encourages supporting players and creating a positive environment.
That's cool.
3 optional raids. Rewards every single type of useful currency in the game constantly. And did I mention, completely optional.
I feel like that's one of the best things about Final Fantasy is a lot of the stuff is optional, number one. And the other thing is the fact that it has the Sprout icon. I genuinely believe that the Sprout icon being visible to other players is such a huge positive thing. And the worst thing about it is that World of Warcraft actually has a Sprout icon, and it's a little baby Murloc coming out of its shell. And people that are in the mentorship program in WoW can see people that have that thing over their head, but everybody else isn't able to. I think that's a huge missed opportunity for WoW. I think that in a big way, World of Warcraft would benefit from having people who are able to see, oh, this is a new player. Okay, well, let's take it easy on them. We're not going to expect them to, you know, like just be amazing at the game. I don't know why it's not like that in WoW. It's such a good idea.
Into Bosnia, shall we? So I had absolutely no idea what FF14's endgame was like. Beyond when MSQ, it was the most constant question I was asked, certainly from other WoW guys, is what is the endgame like? Every time the subject came up, it was met with completely contrasting views from my live audience. Bosnia is awful. Bosnia is absolutely amazing, and so obviously I need to find out for myself. So what is Bosnia? It's essentially the catch-up zone for FF14. Similar in concept to like the Isle of Thunder, Legionfall, Nazjatar, Mechagon, etc. I've made it a point to investigate a lot of extra content before moving on to whatever the next FF14 expansion might be, to just get
See, like I did I'm doing the exact same thing as Preach. Like I want to do all of the content before I move on to the next expansion because I want to have the experience. I want to play it the way it should be played.
Possible to the original game.
Yeah.
One thing I did pass on was something called Eureka. This was the Stormblood extra catch-up
People say
zone,
this
and
is really grindy.
You guys were not really happy that I skipped it, and we're not going to let that happen again.
Yeah.
So I was spammed to go and check out Bosnia. Now, my impression leading into this, that Bosnia,
That's really
this is
fucking
based
cool.
off what people were telling me, had some sort of story similar to what we would expect from WoW, which introduces you to the new zone, and then it turns into a super grindy experience, which you would find in a lot of typical Japanese MMOs. Needless to say,
yeah, I'm playing
I wasn't
one right
exactly
now.
excited.
I know.
I thought it was going to be like an hour of
fully
story,
aware.
and then it just leaves you there to get on with your grind, do your daily quests, whatever it might be. So, thankfully, that is not what it is. Firstly, the story is completely fleshed out and varied as anything else in the game, including the MSQ. It's engaging.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool how they had like a whole quest line for Alexander, for example. And it was the same thing with the Crystal Tower where, you know, what was his name? Graha Tia becomes like the, I don't know, like the fucking, he's like the keeper of the Crystal Tower, basically, because he had the Allagan fucking eye. Like, that was really cool. And I liked all that stuff for, like, I liked that a lot. It was awesome. And it was just extra content that was actually very, very deep.
As twists and turns. It's not voice acted, but it brings in new interesting characters, familiar faces from the rest of the game, while also trying to tie into whatever the current world events are happening elsewhere. So, toying with premonitions...
I will have to say, like, this is one thing that I'm not really a huge fan of with Final Fantasy, is that I don't really like the graphics. That's the truth. I really just don't like the graphics that much. I think that the graphics are kind of bad. If you look at, like, this, the way this looks, it just... This doesn't look very good. Like, even if you compare it to, like, there are a lot of MMOs that are not necessarily great. But in my opinion, I feel like the Final Fantasy graphics stick out more to me than any other MMOs.
Long-lost deities, the oppression of the Empire, all the usual stuff is here and done really well. I was amazed that even when a solid group of players allowing me the most speedy path through the story, it took me nearly 4 days of around 8 hours each just to complete the story. It's
Jesus.
And it's good, and it was well worth the time investment. But that's not my
That reminds
focus
me of
here.
Hulk
I
Hogan.
want to talk about systems. Systems. And
Okay.
systems has become such a
Here we go.
horrible word, because reality, what we're actually saying, is systems done badly. Systems in games are totally fine. Every single video game in the world runs on its systems. That's how it works. But when systems are implemented to be obnoxious and annoying...
Systems that are created to pace players, and that's what developers think. They think, oh, we're pacing players. No, you're not pacing them. You are kneecapping them. You are strangling them. You are making it to where, like, as I said, I think the best example of a bad system that just makes the game worse, there's a few of them. Conduit Energy, the Corruption Vendor, and Azoth and New World. These are terrible fucking systems that should have never been added into the game, and all they do is make the game worse. And I feel like the biggest problem with WoW, for example, in the last 5 years, if you go all the way back to Legion, I think it started in Legion with like the legendaries and like the artifact weapon and everything like that, because those systems were really bad on release, is that the worst thing about all expansions Legion onward was not the content, it was the systems. The systems were fucking terrible, and they strangled the life out of the game. and they demoralized players. They made people not want to log in. They made things take longer for no reason. They made alts harder to do. They just made the entire game worse. And if you didn't have those systems in the game, I feel like the expansion would have been, all expansions would have been infinitely better. Like even BFA, I think would have been infinitely better if all of the systems were designed in the way that they were finally, in the way that they finally ended up.
And to string you along and to be just carrots on sticks,
Yeah.
that's where it becomes a problem. My years and years of experience when it comes to extra catch-up zones and new casual content boils down, before I even touch it, to a few questions.
What's that?
1, how long will it take me to grind this motherfucker out until I actually get the 1 or 2 things I actually want?
Yeah.
2, how long per day is it going to take me to get my daily grind complete? And 3, is it mandatory? These are the same questions.
I feel like there's also a number 4, which is it fun? Because there's a lot of grinding and a lot of things that I have to do that are just really not fun in the game. And I feel like this is a huge problem that, like, I think World of Warcraft and also New World have, is that making the game good is making it fun. And I think that there's a lot of players, and I talked about this yesterday with Virtus, right? Is that there's a lot of players who feel like overcoming bad game mechanics means that they're not bad game mechanics. And there's also a lot of MMO players that treat being able to overcome tedious activities as difficulty. And I feel like those mindsets and that mentality being put into a video game will kill the game. Straight up, you will take your dick and you will put it in the game and it will be full of dicks. It will be like a dick multiplier. Yes, exactly. That's what the real problem is that there are, like, things do not, the spectrum does not exist like this. Fun, difficult. The spectrum does also not exist like this. Fun, easy. It's easy and hard and not fun and fun. So what I'm saying is that difficulty of completing certain tasks is not necessarily correlated to how enjoyable they are. And there are a lot of tasks in WoW that are difficult to do, but they are not enjoyable to engage in.
The people are currently asking about the upcoming 9.2.
It's totally subjective. I don't think it's as subjective as you think it is. I really actually don't think so.
Impossible.
Like, for example, the Azoth system in New World is fucking garbage. And you can prove that by the fact that all of these people, one of the big reasons why they quit, review after review after review, all are saying, I'm sick of running around. There are so many ways. Like, yes, obviously, it will always boil down to, ultimately, player preference and personal choice. You are right. However, I don't think that's a very accurate way to describe what I'm talking about, because there are a lot of things that are just fucking garbage. They're fucking garbage, like the Love Rocket, farming the Love Rocket on 65 characters a day. That's not fun. Like, maybe there are a few people here that are, they're watching from the mental asylum, and they're like, wait a minute, it's so fun, and that's why they're there in the first place. But the fact is that most fucking people play something like that, and they say, this sucks. Yeah, they're playing from a padded room. We're not gonna fucking do that, man. It's garbage. And I don't think it's very subjective that much at all. Especially not whenever enough people agree with it.
For Zereth Mortis in World of Warcraft, because it's going to feature double legendaries, and immediately as soon as you hear that, you think, okay, I'm gonna have to grind this. It doesn't matter whether it's good content or not, and that's the really sad thing. It actually doesn't matter, because you're forced to do it regardless. If you want to be even moderately up to date with the video game, you want to have these ludicrous power gains that you can get, you're going to have to be there. And it just puts a sour taste in your mouth before you even step foot.
Impossible.
It could be the most amazing place in the world, and that would just be a benefit. And that's the sad thing. Because if it's less than great, you're going to get annoyed really goddamn quickly.
Yeah.
Because you have to be there.
People don't like having their time wasted. I think that's really the biggest thing, is that there's a lot, these systems, what they do in many regards is that they waste your time. And I think that's really the best way to describe why people do or don't like certain systems, is the ones that waste your time are the ones that frustrate people.
how amazing was it that as soon as I did my first Bosnia encounter, I saw that I got several things immediately. Like, immediately. I got huge amounts of experience. The zone is scaled, so you can come on lower or higher level characters to level and do whatever the hell you want. The second thing I got was tomestones, used to buy the latest and greatest gear from a vendor. So many, actually. I got so many tomestones from just doing the story that I could gear my alts that I haven't even rolled yet while I was playing around. I regularly capped out my stones and just bought gear for other classes.
That's crazy.
Haven't tried yet. So I would have gear just waiting for me.
I actually did the same thing. Whenever I got to level 50, I bought an entire set of gear for like, I think it was like a black mage or something like that, in case I ever wanted to play it.
Around to doing it.
I need
And then I got tokens. These tokens gave you enormous power buffs immediately. Extra mobility, extra DPS cooldowns,
Wow.
massive huge health and defensive gains. And the passive buffs, like doubling your HP and defense, they don't even expire. They're just active until you finish your gaming session in the zone or it eventually resets.
That's crazy.
And a lot of the like DPS cooldowns, even the mega ones,
Yeah.
they come with like 99 charges. So you could just use one of these for days, literally days. They come back as soon as you step back in the zone. That's right back with you.
Oh,
Until
so it's like
eventually
Palace
you
of the
spend
Dead. It
99,
like
but by
snapshots
then,
it.
You've probably collected like a dozen of them, so you're never going to run out. And then there's the extra bonus stuff. So I was getting these clusters, which buy you much faster mount speed in the zone. And
Yeah.
ironically, it's one of the cheapest rewards you can actually buy. They want you to get this really quickly. There's new dances, new emotes, mounts, minions.
Yeah, because like moving around, I think like travel time for games and stuff like that is, listen, I'll say again that Final Fantasy, I've said before, right? I mean, Bosja is Shadowbringers, and so it's a lot newer. I don't think that the graphics of the game are amazing, but I do think that Final Fantasy meets my graphics check. So for me, graphics are like a binary system. Either the graphics are so bad that it makes me not want to play the game, or the graphics are good enough and I don't care about them. Final Fantasy's graphics are good enough and I don't care about them. It doesn't mean that they're perfect. Does it have the, the splendor of a New World Sunset? It does not. However, it also has a lot of things that New World doesn't have, like an actual in-game example. And it doesn't have body blocking from fucking people that are on your team. So, yes, there are some good things about these other games, and the graphics of the game do kind of suck. I do. I think they suck. But that doesn't mean that the game is bad.
Even more powerful buffs to use. The next thing I got was memories, which then gave me like big visual relic weapons.
Yeah.
And the last thing I got was loot boxes that can
This looks
contain
really
mounts,
cool.
pets, and consumables. So you know if you've done World of Warcraft, if you get exalted, you get a bonus box. Well, you get these just dropping all the time. And by the end of each session, I had like 60 of these to just gain a bunch more stuff. And the cool thing is, the minions and the transmog items that I got from these, they're not bound to your character. So if I'm not interested in them, or I get repeats, I could just sell them. This, my friends, is what happens when you really, really don't care whether players want to engage in your brand new piece of content. I'm not saying that that's things that we can just throw away, but when you remove two factors in the design brief, when you're sitting down to write out how this new content is going to be, and you take out these two factors, one is make sure the player has
Up dog,
to
thanks
take
to 10 subs. I appreciate
We're
that.
making this content.
What's
so
up, dog?
players have to take part in it. Otherwise, it's a waste of money. It's a waste of resources. So
Yeah.
we have to find a way to make sure players.
And that's what WoW does a lot with systems, is that they add in a new system into the game, and then they incentivize it by making it, pseudo-mandatory. Things like Torghast to get like your soul ass and your soul cinders, right? And Korthia to get like your research, so you can get up to level 6, and then you can put gems in your gear, things like that. And you garrisons, like all this kind of stuff. Like this is the way that, and I think that the reason why Blizzard does that is because they're not completely confident in the system. And the reason why I say it is like the Mage Tower is completely optional. There is nothing that you get out of the Mage Tower, and I think that's one of the big reasons why people like it so much, is the fact that you don't have to do anything, you don't have to learn anything, or you don't have to farm for anything, or you do kind of to get the gear, but it is not necessary. It is an optional challenge that you can undertake if you choose to.
And Mage Tower is the last good content in the game. Mage Tower was fucking amazing. And they didn't need to make it necessary or mandatory for players. Because they were confident in it, I think, in a big way.
Take part. They are forced to take part. And 2,
Yeah.
make sure they're still taking part in a week's time.
Yeah, retention
2
mechanisms.
weeks,
Recidivism.
5 weeks time, 6 weeks time.
Weekly
Otherwise,
caps.
they'll complain for a lack of content. So we have to make it a long-ass road to travel, and we have to make it that they have to be there.
And this
When-
is actually a problem. Like, Final Fantasy is lucky in this regard because a lot of WoW players expect to be able to play WoW 8 hours a day and never run out of content. And I think that that's because that they used to be able to do that, but it wasn't even really true back then. You were just doing Battlegrounds all day, and now doing Warsong Gulch for 4 hours doesn't appeal to you as much as it used to. So Final Fantasy is lucky in a way that they've kind of like trained their player base into the mentality of this game will not always have content for you. It's okay to be done. It's okay to finish. And that's one of the things that I liked about WoW, even at the beginning of Shadowlands, is that after I got all of my 226 gear for PvP, and even now in Shadowlands, I'll say a good thing about Shadowlands. I like the fact
Impossible.
that I can get my PvP gear, and I'm done. I'm done. I don't have to, I can log on, and it's like, the way it feels like whenever you log on and you already had your best in slot, you feel like you just came back to your fucking high school, you're in your first year of college, you walk in with the shorts on, you're wearing a hat, you're not supposed to wear a hat in school, but hey man, you fucking graduated, you got your sunglasses on, hey yo, what up? And you go to get like your transcript or some shit like that, and you see all those stupid ass fucking kids sitting around, and you know that you're better than they are. And that's exactly the way I fucking feel when I log in and I have all the gear, man. That's exactly the way I fucking feel.
You take those 2 things out of the design room. When you take those 2 things off
Yeah.
the table, you just create fun. You just create fun on its own merits. It stands on its own 2 feet.
Yep.
And you also remove the idea of, well, we can't give too much too quickly, otherwise what's going to make them come back? We can't just overwhelm the
Imagine
player with
the
cool
game.
stuff, because then you'll just be like, oh, well, I've got everything now. No, you take all that away and say, have a blast. Have a blast. It's so freeing. You can feel the freedom when you're playing it. You actually feel that freedom every single time.
You do whatever
feel
the
that
fuck
it's
you
like,
want.
Oh, cool. I can buff myself up to the stars. And go crazy. Instead, you also remove the idea of drip feeding rewards. We've all been there, especially in my WoW audience, where you have had something like an emissary quest or a renown chest to get, and you go to a zone, and what the first thing you do is you open the map and you check which of the 4 quests you need to
With
do.
your 17 different add-ons that are connected to 5 different third-party sites that then feed you information into an algorithm that then parses out that information and does mathematical calculations into where it tells you how to actually mathematically maximize your artifact power gains on your 3rd Moonkin alt because your guild's trying to kill Sire Denathrius Mythic and you can't raid on your main character because it doesn't do enough DPS, so you're trying to power level your fucking alt and you're trying to get it conduits and you're trying to get a conduit energy, you're out of conduit energy, you gotta wait for tomorrow, and then you're trying to get also your legendary, you gotta go back into Torghast, and then you have to get to layer 8, but you don't have layer 8, so you have to buy a WoW token so you can buy a carry to get to layer 8, and then finally you get to layer 8, then you have to buy another WoW token to buy the white item on the auction house, and then fucking enchant the white item on the auction house with the WoW token gear, and then you get the fucking enchant for the legendary, and then oh my god, the legendary was the same piece that you got from the raid, so now you need to get another legendary, so you buy another WoW token for 200,000 gold for $20 again, and then you make a second legendary. Like, this is... That's the experience. Slow down. Chill out. Relax. Calm down. Holy shit. All right, here we go. Jesus, that was a lot of work, man. I was moving around, doing all kinds of crazy shit like that. Holy fuck.
Are actually worth your time. And there are occasions, and we've all been there, where you look at it and go, there is actually not 4 things in this zone that are worth my time. There really isn't. Some of them are going to give me 35 anime. Some of them are going to give me 100 gold or 250 gold.
Sorry, I was peeing. Can
I
you
have
repeat that?
A lot of gold.
Shut the fuck up.
Some people don't.
Impossible.
Some people do, but this is why you're judging it on a person by person basis.
Yeah.
You scan that map, you mouse over everything, you're like, Pet food charms.
What are you trying to talk shit for, Preach? You gotta get 10,000 of those to get the new pet. What do you mean? What's wrong with the pet charms, huh?
And then there are those times where it's so bad that the big brain play that we're going to do is we're going to try and save it over 3 days to maybe that over the course of the 3 days before that big chest quest disappears.
Oh, the emissaries will
maybe
stack
there'll
up.
be 4 things in total that are worth my time.
Yeah.
What else impressed me is the zone does a lot of really subtle things to make you feel like you're part of an MMO. Regularly, you have these critical engagement spawn. That's what they call them. These are literally outdoor 48-man world bosses. They reward a hell of a lot more of the stuff that you're already getting. The big buffs I mentioned are optional, so you can be super powerful in these encounters. And if you use them, it can be quite hard to die, which might sound...
Can you solo this? Or is it just a group thing? No, you can. There are solos. You can solo some of them. I love solo content in MMOs. Like, it's not even solo content in MMOs. I love solo content, like, in general. Like, things like Dark Souls. I think those are some of my favorite things, man. I love it. There are duels. Yeah, I'm going to do every single one of those.
So some of you are like, oh, so it's just easy mode then? No. The encounters do vary in difficulty from easy to one called Red Chalk Silver, which will just decimate a ton of players. But the trick here, as I said, it's not about dying. It's that they use vulnerability stats to assess you. Right? If you get a mechanic wrong, or even several, it probably isn't going to kill you with these massive HP and defense.
I hope that WoW does this. I actually hope WoW steals this idea. Because one of the biggest problems that WoW has... So people in Final Fantasy get hit by mechanics because they don't know them. People in WoW get hit by mechanics because they do know them and they know that it won't kill them. And it is the most annoying fucking thing. I remember how many of you guys have ever been in a fucking raid and you go into the raid and guess what? There's somebody in there standing in the fire to DPS higher. Who could have possibly taught them that? And
I can't.
One time, because I knew that people were doing this, I told everybody, we're turning off logs today. No one is logging. It was the cleanest raid I had ever been in. People were just like, oh, the mechanic's going out. All right, everybody just walks and they do the mechanic. Whereas before, they're like, well, I'm trying to shoot at these fireballs. Okay, should I do the mechanic? Okay, I'm gonna stutter step. Oh, I missed it. Oops, that's too bad. Raid's dead. Damn, all right, guys. But I would have had a 99 if we killed it. Fuck that. Fuck that. I wish that they had more of these, like the vulnerability and the debuff for your damage. I think that's really smart. And also Lost Ark, the way Lost Ark handles it is that there are some abilities that I believe have like super armor, which is same as like hyper armor in Dark Souls 3, that like whenever you're casting the ability, it's harder to interrupt it except for certain abilities, but it will knock your character down and CC your character. So you don't even want to stand and stuff and get hit by it because it will incapacitate your character. So that's a big reason why it plays better, is because you don't have people that are constantly doing the math on if they can stand in this mechanic or not. So I think it's a lot better.
But you will get a stack of vulnerability. This allows weaker or first-time players an awesome chance to just learn and practice without just lying on the floor and watching everybody else do it.
Imagine that.
No one cares at all if you get 4 or 5 vulnerability stacks if you're still not dying. It doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
But what you get to do,
tells everybody that you suck, though,
or you're not a particularly good player, is you get to keep playing and learn and practice and learn and practice. And over time, what you need to do is not get any vulnerability stacks at all.
Right.
Because then that can spawn a duel. Now, these are basically Mage Tower, really difficult single-player encounters. They're really, really hard. I've watched several people complete these, and more often than not, people fail, just like they would do in a really hard solo piece of content. And what actually happens is you prepare for them. You start learning them. You start studying them. You start preparing the appropriate potions.
Oh, that's so fucking badass. So you duel the guy in front of everybody and they have to watch you? Oh, bro, that's so fucking cool. Holy shit. Oh my god, random chance to get in. They get they get buffs if they watch. They also get a buff if you kill it. What happens if you don't kill it? Do they all get a debuff and they hate you? I have a good feeling Final Fantasy wouldn't do that, but it's still funny
to take with you when you go
they
into
just
this
laugh
encounter,
at you.
right?
Yeah.
Now, here's the really, really, really cool bit.
That's so cool.
That open world. people can come and watch you. And in fact, you're encouraged to do that.
That's
and you're
badass.
also encouraged to support that player, to give them positive vibes,
Wow.
to cheer them on.
Posy
it very much
vibes.
reminded me of like when Thunderen was spawning in WoW Classic, and you would see across the plains guilds and all these people charging across the battlefield to go and watch a duel. So every time you would do one of these critical engagements that can actually spawn a duel, you would wait to see if the duel spawned. Did someone do well enough in order to spawn one? And then it appears. Then you head over and you see.
See, I actually think, you know what another game that really did this well was New World. I really liked how in New World you could watch groups fight the arenas. Like, you could watch somebody fight the Spriggan. You could watch somebody fight Siren Queen or something like that. That was really, really fucking cool. The problem is that the fights were super easy and it was hard to get over there, so there's no reason to ever watch anybody. But, like, for example, okay? Imagine if, like, let me think of an example of, like, what would really make sense in, like, a WoW or, like, New World, like, analogy. Okay, let's say you have, like, in World of Warcraft, you have somebody who is trying to fight the Mage Tower, you know, and there's, like, some kind of, like, really, really powerful version of the Mage Tower, like the Mage Tower. And, the top mage or the top warrior on your server is going to fight this guy. And you can have everybody around in a separate spectator area watching the fight. That's fucking awesome. Brawlers Guild. Yeah, they did that with Brawlers Guild. And you know what? Brawlers Guild was fucking awesome. Brawlers Guild was amazing. They added that in Mists of Pandaria. I recruited people for my guild through Brawlers Guild. I would watch somebody, how they moved out of mechanics, and I would say, fuck, all right, you're good. Come into the guild. Come raid Mythic with us, please. Yeah, it was awesome. I wish we had more of that. But, like, the problem with Brawlers Guild is that it's so easy. Like, there's no... Brawlers Guild in Mists of Pandaria, if you could beat... Who the fuck was it? It was like the shark on top of, like, the raptor. Hexos? Bro, Hexos was not hard. You just fucking turn. Like, no, Hexos was not fucking hard. Uron? Yeah, that one was not that bad either. I feel like the one where it was like the three different guys, like the raptor on top of the shark on top of the guy playing a guitar. That was like the hardest one. And if you saw somebody beat that boss, it was like, holy fuck, it's gonna happen. And people would actually watch that happen back in Mists of Pandaria because a lot of people didn't have that kind of gear and they just wanted to see it happen. It was really cool. Yeah, Epicus Maximus. Yeah, there you go. Hexos, destroyer of keyboard turners. Yeah, exactly.
Going to take part. And you check whether they're buffing themselves up. Are they ready for this? Are they good? And you cheer them on.
Yeah.
And why do you do this? Because if they win, you get a buff that literally like doubles the meta rewards for you for the next hour. Doubles your reward if they succeed. So you're then encouraged to create a positive player environment.
Yeah.
Because you want those people to succeed. You want to get yourself that buff. And therefore, everybody's winning. And you feel bad if they lose.
Yep.
Don't shit on them because it's really, really hard. And you know it's really hard. But if they succeed, you're running up, you're patting them on the back, you're cheering them on, and then you're off and you get yourself all these extra bonus rewards. It's such a cool way of passively creating a positive environment. You're encouraged to take part. Even if you're not good enough to do this,
I can't.
Doesn't matter. You still want the other person to do well at the same time. On top of all this,
Impossible.
3 48-man optional raids.
Holy fuck, that's awesome.
Your mega DPS books and just have a blast. They have their own gear, an extra savage
God
raid
damn.
for some really juicy items. Again, entirely optional. 3 raids, totally optional.
Impossible.
Totally distinct from everything else.
That's
They're
fucking
there
cool.
If you're interested, if you enjoy raiding or you just want to see the new raid. If
Oh
not,
my God.
You have literally no reason to ever step foot in the zone, and you will just not get 3 extra raids. It's as simple as that. The end game of the zone is where people will have different experiences with this, and why I was told a lot of people by a lot.
That it was bad,
I
right?
mean, a lot of people that Bosnia was crap.
Yeah.
And it was just a massive grind. And it wasn't.
See, I didn't hear that. I heard that Eureka was the bad one and Bosja was the good one. Like, that Eureka was kind of like the first draft, and Bosja was kind of the better version of it. That's what I heard. Eureka is more hands-off. Yeah, I don't know, but I thought it was only for Relic. I'm going to do both of them. I'm halfway done with my Heavensward Relic. By the time I stream Final Fantasy again, I'll have my final Heavensward Relic. I farmed out. Like, I did this off stream. I farmed out like 15,000 tombstones or something like that. And I bought all of the resources for the entire relic.
Even check it out. Don't even
I
go
can't.
there. Now, this is because you have finished the story, you have reached your max rank, and I did that in 4 days. Okay, so that's for some players, it's literally 4 or 5 days worth of content, depending on how hard you push it.
Yeah.
But that's going to be about it. And for many players, you'll go, 4 or 5 days? That sounds kind of shit. And some people really want to grind out a certain place for a long time. But of course, the story is not over. What they do is then say, do what you want with this place. Because as we've already mentioned, you can use it to level your alts, you can use it to gear up all your characters, you can do all that stuff, and that still remains. But what they then do is say, okay, you've finished the main bulk of stuff, and you've seen practically everything. You may not have done everything, you're unlikely to have won a duel by then.
Yeah.
On several bosses, you won't have ever got it done without getting all ability stacks, so you still have plenty to do in terms of your own personal goals, but that's the point. You then have your own path to go on, and they encourage that as well. So what they then do is say, okay, all that metal you've been earning to rank up, that's now an extra currency you can spend on stuff.
Oh.
You can now spend that on gaining passive buffs for your character to make them even stronger. You want to boost your DPS, you want to boost up your
that's
healing,
cool.
you want to boost up your HP, you can continue to do that. So absolutely nothing you find there is wasted. Nothing. Of all the resources and stuff you gather, nothing is going to be wasted whatsoever.
Yeah.
So now you can get this sort of prestige type system where you're going to keep building it up, and if you're passively farming it on alts, remember in FF14, your alt is still the same character. Every single character will play every single job in the game. So even when you go to swap over, you still retain all the benefits of being there originally. Instead of we look towards things that are like account wide. I've done this in one character. Can I have the benefits of this in another character? And often, certainly in World of Warcraft, it's like, no, you must start again. You must get the reputation again. You must start this over again. That doesn't happen in FF14. They say, okay, you already did this. Great. Now you can have the benefits to level up your other character.
Well, it's also another thing is like, I think Final Fantasy, the big reason why a lot of people like it is that you only play one character. Like, only playing one character is actually such a huge fucking, like, it's such it's not a subtle thing, but it's such a just smart thing. It's the same as, like, ironically, again, in New World, you play the same character. Whether you're playing a mage, you're playing a tank, you're playing a healer, you play the same character. I think that, like, for games like WoW that have, like, individual classes, still, the best thing that WoW can do is make sure that every in-game system is account-wide. Like, just make sure every single in-game system is account-wide. Because, in my opinion, I would like to do Torghast on an alt. Maybe it could be fun. Like on my Death Knight, since he's got pretty good gear now. But I'm never gonna, I'm not gonna do my tower knowledge. I don't wanna do it. Like, I already did this. Like, I already beat this game. Like, why do I have to do it again? And that's the exact same time, that exact same way I feel about this too. Alts are a thing of the past. I don't think alts are necessarily a thing of the past, but I do think that the reason why alts are good, whenever I think of like, why did I want to level a warlock in war? Let me just think about this, right? And if you tell me guys if your experience was the same. I made Crack Monkey because I lost to a warlock in PvP. And I watched a video of a warlock doing a 4v1. And I thought to myself, guys, I think I'm playing the wrong class. I did not level up my warlock to farm reputation. I did not level up my warlock to do my attunements again. But for like a prot paladin, I did level up my prot paladin because I thought it was so fucking badass that I could chain pull 10 different groups of mobs in a dungeon and then just AoE all of them down. So what I think that like WoW should do and these other games should do is they should be honest with themselves in why are people rolling an alt. Nobody is rolling an alt to progress the tower knowledge system again in Torghast. This is not happening. It's just not happening. So, yes, Ian said they do. Ian has no fucking idea what he's talking about. Ian knows how to make raids, and he doesn't know shit about anything else in the game. Go look at his armory. He is an amazing raider. He is a Scarabord. He is an OG, but he doesn't know shit about anything except for raiding. And you know what? Ian's first raid that he ever made was Throne of Thunder, the arguably best raid of all time. keep making your raids, Ian, and stay the fuck away from the systems. That's what I think. I don't want to fucking hear about how people do that. They level. They like doing this again. No, they fucking don't. You have no idea what you're talking about. And I don't care. Oh, we have the data. No, obviously, if you had the data and you knew how to use the data, the game wouldn't be dying. So you clearly don't know what you're doing. Because if you did and you have the data, and having the data gives you some level of insight that other people don't have, then why are you still failing? Like, really, it's just common sense. The data shows people quitting the game. Yeah, because of this.
Not only that, your gear might be weaker on your alt job, so we'll just give you all these extra passive buffs as well. And then while you're gearing that up, we'll give you more and more buffs on top of that as well.
Brutal but
just
true.
to make your time easier, you've got something else to work on. You can do whatever the hell you want to do, especially farming your relics. Now, this is the big grind of Bosya. Now, your relic is basically a glam. At the time, it was a powerful weapon, but it's essentially now, certainly, it's just a wonderful transmog item that you can farm. And there's one for every single job in the game.
That's
Again,
cool.
comes down to what you want to do. If
Yeah,
you're
that's
somebody
cool.
who's like, I want to level every single job in the game and collect every single relic.
See, like, that's some fucking crazy shit. To me, it's so simple. I want to have a Dark Knight with everything. Do you think I give a fuck about a bard? Do you think I give a fuck about a white mage? No. I care about being a Dark Knight. And you know what else? My alt is a warrior. And then I might level a paladin. And then you know what? I might level a gunbreaker too. That's it. Yeah, I'm not playing all that bullshit. And maybe a Dragoon, a Reaper. Yeah, there's a few other ones, right? But those are the main ones that I really get into. Yeah, I like tank main. The reason I like playing tanks is because whenever I play tank, the boss is always in the right spot. And I know, like, my skill as a player is not my mechanical dexterity. My skill as a player is my deep knowledge of the fights. I know exactly how they work, I know when the mechanics are going to happen, and I know what the boss is going to do before it happens. And because of that, tanking is my best role in the raid, because it maximizes my skill set of knowing what's going to happen and being able to plan the boss accordingly. I'm not a good DPSer. Like, I'm really not. Because I'm usually reading stream, I'm busy, or something else like that, but I am a great tank. It's also the easiest.
Thousands of hours.
Yeah, so I can read chat at the same time. And tell you guys it's
just
not.
Sat there waiting for you. And sure, after a while, you're going to be like, this is just a mindless grind. But yeah, you're doing the same thing over and over again for thousands of hours.
Yeah.
Well, that goes all the way back down to, I don't care about any of that stuff. And I got 4 days of really intense content out of it, to the guy who's like, I want to just get the relic for my main job. And therefore, Bosya has a few weeks of content for me.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to have this scaling level of, I want to, like, my focus, if I was going back, would be, I want to do the jewels. And I will be going back.
That's what I want to do. Yeah, that's really
like
cool.
A Mage Tower challenge. So I absolutely want to do that. And that's why I got all these different opinions, which is understandable. Because everybody had a very different experience with it, which is exactly what they wanted. They don't want people to all have the same experience all the way through it and force it down your throat. You make your own road out of this, and it's nothing but a positive as far as I can see.
Impossible.
My conclusion here then. For me, Bosya...
Yeah, whatever. How do you guys think Preach's hair looks? You know, I've been thinking a little bit about getting a hair transplant. I feel like maybe it's like the hairline is too straight. Like, for me, I'd want to have a little bit of hair like right here, just so my hairline is not really quite as much like Vegeta's as it is now. Like, I'm not looking to have I'm not looking to have like a perfect hairline. I just want it to look better than what it is. Do a good bald. I think that if I ever do get a hair transplant, before I do it, I will shave my head. Yes, before I do it, I will shave my head just for the content. So yeah, if I ever do it, I'll do it. I'll do it as like a charity goal or something like that. If people raise enough money, we'll fucking do it. Why not?
That was exactly what I look for from casual content. Now, what I did find out during this is the word casual content is very different in FF14. For me, it means accessibility. It's accessible content. You can do it anytime, any day. You can log in for 5 minutes, 3 hours. It doesn't matter. It's completely there.
I feel like my definition of casual content is content that's not like overwhelmingly difficult, like getting Necromancer or like maybe some of the Mage Tower challenges, but it's also challenges that you can do pretty much on your own time, that you can go in and out of at your own will. That's the most important thing to me, is that you can go in and out of these challenges whenever you want.
Open, and you can just run in, jump in, and get involved. And then you can drop
There's a lot
out
of
and go
casual
into
players that
currency
can
stuff.
play a lot, but
casual
not at the
content
same
in
time.
FF14 generally means content that isn't going to take all day. They have more of a time focus on their casual stuff. But ultimately, this was exactly the kind of thing I'm looking for when it comes to a casual.
Yeah.
There's a huge, interesting, engaging bulk of content for you there that's going to take you probably like 40 hours, right? That's all there for everybody, and nobody has to go. That's the solely important factor, is nobody has to do this. If you're not interested at all,
Yeah, you don't have to do it. Who gives a
makes
fuck?
absolutely no difference to you whatsoever, and you can completely avoid it if you want to. For other people, there's thousands of hours of content here that will continue to be used into the next expansion because it's scaled. If you want to go and level there, you can go and level there, whether there's 3 expansions later down the line. It doesn't matter. If that's your favorite place to be,
Yeah, I think one thing Final Fantasy does really well is they make sure that the content that was in like Realm Reborn or Heavensward or one of these older expansions is still relevant. It's one of the worst things, like with WoW. It's like content that's in the last patch is less relevant than content that's in Heavensward in Final Fantasy. Like, think about how bad that is. It's insane.
make a difference. You can go and do it and do whatever you want to do. And just the fact that they are not afraid to waste, they're not afraid, or they're not trying, I should say, to waste your goddamn time.
Yeah.
It's not
There
about
it is.
chasing one little
Exactly.
reward at the end of a stick.
True.
And all the way through it, they might give you some bits and
And
bobs here, but they're going to give it you piecemeal. They're going to gate you off
I
from
can't.
it and say, no, you can't do it. You're like, now you have to click a load of boxes.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to farm the same
yeah.
res over and over again.
Got a little bit of
and you're gonna have
bullshit.
to do this and this and this. It's entirely down to everything you do there gives you a bit of everything. How can you argue with content that is constantly giving you extra stuff? That you just like, oh cool, I've geared up another character passively by doing this other thing. I went there to farm my jewels. While I was doing that, I literally leveled another character, and I also got like gear for that character.
Damn.
And I also did it while being able to make myself super strong.
I think also, like, the fact that you can get gear for alts while you're getting gear for your main gives you a reason, like, it kind of subconsciously makes you plan for playing an alt, which makes people play the game longer. I feel like one of the reasons why people stuck around with, like, Wrath of the Lich King, or they stuck around with, you know, any of these other expansions in the past, a big reason for that is just simply the fact that they could roll alts. Is because alts extended the content of the game. There were a lot of times where I was bored with my warrior, and I said, fuck it, let's go level up Barbecue Beard. Fuck it, let's go level up Zack the Paladin, or Crack Monkey. You know, like, that's what it would be. It was great. And the alt stuff and alting in general in the game was a big way that people staved off a content drought. Is you would be raiding on, like, multiple different characters. Are you gonna watch Final Fantasy XIV Live Letter? No, I heard that it had a lot of spoilers in it, so I'm not going to watch it. And also, I have that Elden Ring event that I have to be at really early in the morning, so I can't stay up late. I like to just relax tonight and go to bed at like maybe 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and then wake up in the morning, and then stream it then. And that was the announcement. I'll talk about it later on.
While I was there, and I could take that into
Promise
raids,
more Lost Ark
like,
today?
super
I
strong
know I
raids
will.
because it
I
really
know I will. We're about to do that soon.
It affects nothing to anybody, and you can go and do these things. Almost perfect. Almost perfect. There are always tweaks and improvements to be made, but from what I can see, this comparative to what I've certainly dealt with in WoW over the years, this is where you take a leaf from that book and go, yeah, this is how we do it. We take away that idea of forcing players to be there, and that's what you find. Pretty damn good. I'll see you again, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.
That's a good video. I really think this is good analysis. I wish that in the video, Preach would have used
I
more
need a
examples
key.
of like WoW and like how the systems are mandatory, and you know, just give them more examples. But just in general, like Preach, for a lot of you guys that are Final Fantasy fans, I know we've got a lot of people in here who love Final Fantasy 14. And, you know, you guys probably already know who Preach is. But if you don't, Preach Gaming used to be a WoW guy, played WoW ever since Vanilla WoW, used to raid with Method whenever Method wasn't what Method, you know, like, just before, like, Method was just a WoW guild back then. And he raided with Method. This guy's an OG. He's a real one. And so he's, like, we've watched his videos now for years. Like, straight up for fucking years. Would you like to see Mike's new video on Eureka? More importantly, BA. I don't know what BA is. So happy for Mike. It shouldn't matter if Final Fantasy doesn't end up being his main MMO after his cut up with Endwalker. The amount of fun he had has still been a joy to watch. I would like to believe that the game has a very positive impact on his health and life. I think that there's a lot of people out there who, and this is like kind of like a weird thing, is that like I've had the same thing happen where people constantly tell me that like, wow, you seem in a much better mood, you seem happier whenever you're playing Final Fantasy, or like they try to like kind of project their emotions of being happy that you're doing it onto you. And I really don't like that. The truth is, I enjoy Final Fantasy, but I love sitting down and relaxing and playing World of Warcraft. It's so fun. I love it. I think it's great. Final Fantasy did not end up being better for my health. Well, actually, in a way it did, but not for the reason that they might think it. If it was any other game, it would have done the same thing in a lot of ways, because Final Fantasy for me, this is one thing that like I think many people might not really understand, because you don't stream, it's like the fuck cares, right? But there's a lot of people who they stream one game, and whenever you're streaming one game, it can be really hard to move out of that one game and make content for another game and actually retain viewers. How many WoW streamers have you seen that had 500 average viewers that went to stream another game and then they went under 100? Like, they went under 100 viewers because of that. That's exactly what it was. And that's what's happened many times, right? And the fact is that, like, the fact that so many people would support me and want to watch me play another game, that's why it really made me feel good. That's why I was really happy about it, is because of that.
Impossible. 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 I need mana.